To make the table that we're going to be processing on, we're simply going to copy the table we just imported. This is a step you only do the first time. After that, you're going to have your application table, and you will not need to do a copy paste, you will be doing an append. We'll know more about that later. In Design View, if you right click and go to Design View, you'll have the opportunity to resize your fields. You can open the GoCat file so you can view what the fields look like to determine appropriate sizing. I'm going to make the web ID about 20 characters. If anybody knows how many characters the web ID max is, that would be helpful. I usually make a combined name field about 75 characters. It's plenty long in case they have an extra long name. The banner ID is the SID. That is always 9 characters. You want to make these fields the right size so that they're not taking up more space in the database than they need to. Right now at Larimer Campus, we have 10,000 records in our database. That's quite a number of records, so we don't want to waste any more space than we need to. So you would go forth and right size these fields. Continuing on, number fields don't need to be right sized. Hopefully the import chose the right kinds of number. There are other kinds. You can read about what the features of these numbers are in the help if you hit F1 or just go to the help button, the little question mark. I'm going to right size these fields and then we'll be right back. I forgot, the source field value is web. You may or may not want to use this field. We are currently adding paper applications, so I actually want to make this a lookup. The word paper is 5 characters, so I'm going to make this field 5 characters long. And then I'm going to add a lookup. You can actually use a lookup wizard to do this and say that you're going to type the values that you want. Web is the delivered value, and paper is the value that you're adding. You could abbreviate that to be 3 characters if you wanted to. The nice thing about this is it automatically selects the right kind of setup. The combo box, I feel, is the best setup for a multi-value list when we go to the form. If you want to limit it to list, then you need to change this value. We don't want to add anything other than web or paper into that field, then we want to limit to list. We don't want to allow multiple values because an application is either web or it is paper. And you don't want to allow value list edits for this field possibly. So we'll leave that as no. The other type of field I want to discuss is the date field. Because this is valued as a date, it cannot be anything else. When you're setting up fields, it's very important that you keep date fields as just dates. If you enter text in there, the sort properties will not work with the date as a setup date, and it may not sort properly. After I am done formatting those fields, I have additional fields that I want to add. For Larimer Campus, because we're a multi-campus, we originally decided to assign applications, and we have multi-users in the system, and assign who is processing them. So we put in the user ID of the person who's processing them. This is a text field. I'm not sure how long these can get, but I'm going to put 20 characters. And for this one, because I know it's a combo box, I can also set up a combo box by setting it up as I want to. Yeah. You use quotation marks and then commas to separate. And you can add your users. For this one, I do want to have value list edit, so I'm going to leave that to yes. And I'm not going to limit it. I am going to limit it to the list because I want consistency in data entry. But if we have a new person come in, I'm going to allow the value list edit to make it easy for that person to be added. The other thing I want to know that aids us in processing is we actually enter the gender as a one character field. We enter the age, but we enter this as a value that helps us think about whether residency is going to be based on the student or the parent, and whether they need an underage hold. So here we have under 23, 23 and over, once again with those quotation marks, or you could have used the wizard, and 16 and under. And we chose to go with 16 and under after we originally put under 16 to make data entry more accessible and easy. We do want to limit this to the list once again for consistency purposes, but this one I don't want anybody just coming in and changing the values. We need to have a discussion before we do that. So we're not going to allow that. Other fields that we enter are citizenship, residency status, the reason that we made that determination, additional comments, and there are other fields. I'm going to go through and add these really quick and then come back and talk about them. I decided to rename user ID to be processor ID, but here's a number of other fields that we've added. So we added residency with the statuses and then the reasons. Present state began. Oh, I'm going to delete this field because we're not. What I found, this was a multiple value field, and we found that that does not work in the comment. We're still using it because it creates a nice checkbox list, but it has other reasons that it's not very valuable. So instead, we're going to have these yes/no options: date of birth verification needed, SSN verification needed, change of name, future SS hold, missing student signature, missing parent signature, things that are not covered under age or residency. And then we're going to have a date reviewed. We're going to have, comments. That's not going to go in the student's records. It could be something such as, I think I discovered a duplicate ID. I'm not able to make a match at this time, or some other note to yourself that you need to make because you are having trouble with processing the record. Email sent, if you need to communicate with the student about changes to residency, although we're looking at maybe another possibility with that. Process time is not something you would necessarily have the staff see, but it's something that you might want to look at, so that won't be on the form. And these other fields are related to a different process we're not going to be able to talk about today, but we have found that there's a marginal error rate that we can address through a Cognos report. And an acceptance letter date, which was what I was talking about before, and that won't be covered today. But I just want to let you know that it's something that's on my mind. Then we're going to save this. And it's giving us a message about right sizing of fields, but since we double checked on the GoCat file that all of the fields were the right size, we can say yes with confidence. Sometimes it will ask you if you want to save the changes to a table because you've resized the fields or filtered it. I'm going to say no.